In 1929, Aba was a bustling town in southeastern Nigeria. Small red mud houses lined the roads, and marketplaces were always busy. Women gathered daily to sell their wares: cassava, yam, peppers, farm oil, fabrics, and more. Children laughed and played while men handled other duties in the community. Life in Aba was simple but full of tradition and culture. The Igbo peoples in Aba were proud of their customs. They valued family, hard work, and respect. But there was a big problem that was causing them pain. Hey guys, welcome back to my YouTube channel. If you're new here, this is Folktales by Serafina. Today I'll be telling a story on the Aba Women's Riot. You can also drop a comment below to tell us what you've heard concerning the riot. Many years ago, British officers came to Nigeria, claiming lands, goods, and authority over the local people. They did not respect the people's customs and forced their own ways upon them. The Igbo people, especially the women, felt this pressure as they were forced to pay taxes, something they had never done before. The British government set up local Warrant Chiefs to enforce their rules. These chiefs, who were often corrupt and harsh, made life difficult for the common people. They would force people to pay high fines, arrest them without reason, and take their property. The women who were responsible for feeding their families suffered the most. They were already struggling to earn enough money, and now they have faced even more pressure. Among these women was Nwanyeruwa, a strong-willed woman in her early 40s. Nwanyeruwa was known for her sharp mind and fearless spirit. She was a farmer and a trader, and every day she brought her goods to the market, hoping to make enough to care for her family. She had 2 young sons, a daughter, and her husband, who was a farmer. Nwanyeruwa was respected in her community, and people often came to her for advice. She believed in standing up for what was right and never backed down from a challenge. Her younger sister Adama admired her deeply. Though Adama was quieter and more reserved, she supported her sister in everything. The 2 sisters had a close bond and worked together in the market. They shared their burdens, dreams, and worries. One day, while Nwanyeruwa was selling her goods, she heard a disturbing rumor. The British district officer had announced a new tax on women. This tax meant that every woman who sold goods or farmed would have to pay extra money to the colonial government. Nwanyeruwa was furious. "How can they expect us to pay more?" she said to her sister, her voice trembling with anger. "We are already struggling to feed our families." Adama nodded. "It's too much, sister. They keep taking from us. But when they stop." Nwanyeruwa clenched her fist. She could feel the anger rising inside her, an anger shared by many women. They worked hard to make a living, and now the colonial government wanted to take even more from them. She looked around the marketplace, seeing the worried faces of other women. They were all thinking the same thing: enough was enough. Over the next few days, Nwanyeruwa and Adama spoke with other women in the marketplace. They shared their fears and frustration, realizing that many others felt the same way. The tax was an injustice they could no longer bear in silence. As word spread, women from nearby villages came to Aba to discuss what they could do. They gathered under a large tree in the center of the market, where everyone could listen and speak. The atmosphere was tense, filled with both anger and determination. Nwanyeruwa stood in the middle, her voice loud and clear. "Our voices have power. If we could come together, they will have to listen to us." One woman raised her hand. "But what can we do? They are the governments. They have soldiers and guns." Nwanyeruwa looked around at the faces of her sisters. "Yes, they have soldiers, but we have each other. If we stand together, if we protest in large numbers, they will see that we are serious." The women murmured in agreement. They knew the risks, but they also knew that remaining silent would only lead to more suffering. The crowd grew larger each day as more women joined the gatherings. They planned to confront the British officers, to demand that the tax be removed. They would not allow themselves to be silenced. With each meeting, their resolve strengthened. They sang traditional songs, chanting words of courage and unity. Nwanyeruwa led them, her voice carrying across the marketplace as they sang together. Their unity became their strength, and their strength became a movement. As days passed, the women in Aba grew more united in their purpose. Each morning they gathered under the large tree at the marketplace to discuss their plan. They shared stories of hardship, of how the new tax would make it impossible for them to support their families. One morning, Nwanyeruwa spoke again to the crowd. "We are mothers, wives, and daughters. Without us, our families cannot survive. If they take more money from us, they take food from our children's mouths. This is why we must go together and demand that the tax is removed." The other women nodded in agreement. Murmuring words of support, some women traveled from villages far away, walking long distances to join the protest. They wore traditional wrappers and carried signs made from clothes and sticks, showing that they were ready to stand up against the injustice. The news of the protest spread quickly. Even the British district officer began to hear whispers about a group of women planning to march on his office. He dismissed their plans, thinking that these unimportant women would not dare to challenge him. But the women knew they were not unimportant. They were the backbone of their families and communities, and they would not be ignored. The day of the protest finally arrived. Thousands of women gathered in Aba, their faces showing courage and determination. They walked side by side, chanting and singing songs of unity and strength. Their voices filled the streets as they marched to the British district officer's office. When they arrived, Nwanyeruwa stepped forward to speak on behalf of the women. She lifted her head high and spoke with a firm voice. "We have come to demand that this new tax be removed. You are taking from us what little we have, and we will not allow it." The district officer looked down at them, a slight smirk on his face. He still didn't take them seriously. "This is the law," he replied coldly. "You must follow it. If you do not, there will be consequences." The women did not back down. Instead, they began to clap, stomp, and chant louder, their voices echoing across the town. They held up their hands in unity, showing that they would not leave until they were heard. This display of strength was something the British officers had not expected. Seeing their determination, the district officer grew uneasy. He ordered some soldiers to step forward, hoping the sight of armed men would make the women go home. But the women only stood firm, chanting, "We want justice." The soldiers looked confused, unsure of what to do. They had never faced such a large group of women standing up against them. As the protest continued, tensions grew. More women joined, and the chants grew louder. The officers became frustrated, unable to control the crowd. Some soldiers began to push the women back, trying to scatter them. But the women held their ground. Nwanyeruwa raised her voice above the noise. "Do not let them push you. Stand strong." But then, in the heat of the moment, another officer pushed a woman too hard and she fell. This sparked anger and fear among the protesters. In the chaos, some soldiers fired shots into the air to try to scare the women away. Screams filled the air and the women began to run in different directions. The protest ended in tragedy, when some women injured and a few losing their lives. The officers thought they had won, but in truth, they had only strengthened the women's resolve. News of the clash spread quickly, reaching other towns and villages. Now, even more women want to join the cause, determined to stand up for those who had been hurt or lost their lives. After the protests, the British government began to worry. They had never seen such unity and strength among the women, and they knew they had underestimated them. To avoid more protests, they decided to cancel the tax. They also removed some of the Warrant Chiefs who had abused their power, fearing more resistance from the people. The women of Aba had won. Their courage and determination had forced the British government to change its policies. Though they had faced hardship and loss, their voices had made a difference. They had shown the world that even without weapons, they could stand together and make their voices heard. For Nwanyeruwa and the other women, this victory was more than just the removal of a tax. It was a symbol of strength and unity. They had proven that they could stand up to injustice, and this legacy would be remembered for generations to come. The Aba Women's War, as it came to be known, became a powerful story in Nigerian's history, inspiring future generations to fight for their rights. Nwanyeruwa, now a hero in her community, continued to tell her story of struggle and victory. She wanted every young girl to know that they too had the power to bring about change, just as the women of Aba had done. I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to subscribe to my YouTube channel, like, leave a comment below, and share. We'll see you on our next post and on our next story. Bye for now.